When I was at school, I wasn't taught anything about black soldiers in World War One.
I had a faint idea that they might have been involved, but I didn't know the extent to which.
I definitely think awareness needs to be brought to it so that people can acknowledge that a lot of people from British colonies fought and gave their lives for the exact same thing that many British ancestors gave their life for.
Black subjects had their actions during the war written out of history. This is the story of whitewashing history, the old history you don't learn at school. We're constantly reminded of the sacrifices of young British white men. Yet more than 4 million non-European and non-white soldiers and auxiliaries participated in the war. This included 1.5 million from British India, more than 2 million from French colonies in Africa and Indochina, 400,000 African Americans, 100,000 Chinese laborers.
Find out like over 1 million people, like black people contributed is crazy. Like even just last year we had the 100th anniversary of First World War I, and even then I didn't hear anything about it.
The people I always saw when we were talking about World War One or Two were always just strangely very happy European people at the army front, looking like they're having a great time winning the war, but nothing really engaging about the kind of rifts that may have happened between black and white soldiers and understanding how it actually was.
1919, Britain had won the war. A victory parade commenced through London. Despite more than 1 million black individuals fighting in the war, they cannot be seen taking part in the celebrations. Their participation has been largely ignored and overlooked. The army claimed they could not afford to transport foreign soldiers to London for the celebrations, but the reasons ran much deeper than this. Many within the ruling elite had big concerns about disturbing the racial hierarchy and damaging white supremacy. This was the era of the British Empire, and people believed in racial theories. One of the most popular argued that different races were competing for survival. In their minds, it was the survival of the fittest. In India, the British favoured martial races. They stereotyped ethnic groups. Some were seen as effeminate. Sikhs were seen as the perfect martial people, tall and strong and physically imposing. They were seen as worthy to partake in the Victory March of July 1919. They were viewed as a race with a higher status than African or Caribbean troops.
It's just a habit to completely erase who is being exploited. There's this entire kind of network of support that the West kind of leaned on and exploited.
When I was younger, I always used to wonder, why is it called World War if you can't see any element of world and the diversity that's in the world?
Negative stereotyping was rife on both sides of the war. These ideas were not restricted to Britain. The same ethnic stereotyping was taking place in Germany too. But there, few people had ever met a black soldier. Instead, racism was used to attack black soldiers in the British or French armies. A pamphlet was published called The Employment, Contrary to International Law, of Coloured Troops upon the European Theatre of War by England and France. The pamphlet suggested colonial soldiers conducted terrible acts of brutality, including cutting body parts off of German soldiers. Coloured troops carried war trophies, the severed heads and fingers of German soldiers, wore ears which they have cut off as ornaments about their necks.
I distinctly recognise their dark complexion, their red turbans and wide trousers. I mean, what does that mean? That could be anyone.
Yet when Germans were captured by colonial troops, they were amazed to find that they weren't brutally murdered and were in fact treated rather well. But as we know, this was not purely a German phenomenon. Similar sentiments were held and disseminated in Britain. In Britain, journalist E.D. Morel wrote for the Daily Herald, France was thrusting her black savages still further into the heart of Germany. By giving black and brown people the opportunity to fight, to kill white men, they were, in the eyes of racial theorists, disrupting the world order.
funny just looking at these pictures, how they go to such great lengths to make us look like these crazy people with these huge limbs. It seems like we're taller than every other person, like we're this huge monster coming to attack them.
You don't even have to read German to know what this picture's trying to convey. Just like all the features, like the caricature itself is just really, really negative, really, really, really awful.
Black soldiers and sailors had contributed to the war. They had given their lives to fight for Crown, country and the Commonwealth. That didn't fit the image imperialists had for them.
In school, the world wars are probably the most taught things in history. When I think world wars, I just think Europe and America and maybe Russia. But it's crazy to think that so many people contributed and their contributions never been acknowledged.
History needs to be more accurately rewritten to ensure that the contribution of over 1 million black servicemen is remembered and isn't lost.